So from the last time we met, I think that one of the main things that we want to say is that there was a huge reorganization of docs. You might have seen it or realized basically because well, we broke a couple of links, but you know, nothing too bad. Like everything was solved like very easily. But let me show the PR. Actually, I should have prepared that. But the whole idea is that where is this? Close and reorganize here. So basically, thanks to the help of Matthias, who did a lot of this job, we actually move around 266 files around. Like, well, I mean, we changed 266 files, but we basically move a lot of things around. If you remember from the last meeting, and if not, some problem that we had in the documentation is that you will go, for example, like to build, and then like, I don't know, like multi-chain components and choose your dev environment. And you see like, this is like build, multi-chain components, and you choose your environment. And the URL will be like develop, pause, tutorial, quick start. It will be like literally whatever. And this is because like our documentation has been growing like organically, right? Like we released something, we give it a name, we put a file somewhere, and then it turns out that, okay, no, people like turn like, you know, like that tutorial that started by like choosing your dev environment, now we move it or we separate it, but like we never changed the name of the files, right? Like, and never change the structure. So something that was happening a lot is that you will navigate somewhere, right? Like by clicking, and you will end up in literally whatever URL. And this has two problems or three problems. Like the first one is like, if the URL has nothing to do with the title, I think that you get like a penalization in SEO. Not an SEO expert here, so might be wrong, but I'm quite sure that that is the case. Another problem is that for the people, it's super weird because you're like in choose your dev environment, and suddenly you like the URL is whatever else. So that creates like some sort of like cognitive dissonance, and it's like, it's just annoying. And the third one, and maybe like most important, and why we did the change, is that whenever we had to make a change, we had to sort of like guess where that document was. Because imagine that like generally you were working by sections, right? And imagine that you are working now in what is a component. And this is like develop boss tutorial quick start, just for saying something, right? Like, and now you go to the next one, and it's like in whatever else, like it's in dev, is one of them was like dev slash boss slash something. And then you literally just waste 5 minutes trying to figure out where is that file. So this was becoming very annoying, and we basically move all the files around. Now, while moving the files around sounds like, you know, it's not such a big deal, the problem is that you generally use relative links or absolute links inside of the documentation. So you not only need to move the documentation, now you have to fix that link everywhere that got broken. And that's why like this took about like 2 weeks actually of work, because you suddenly find yourself fixing 350 links, right? And this is just internal links. Something else that happens is that, of course, like a lot of people will like, you know, this happens a lot with the quick starts, that someone will, let me remove this, right? Like someone will say like, okay, you know, there's this quick start. So copy the URL and put it somewhere else and say like, yeah, okay, and whatever, in any case, you can go and see this quick start from near. And we have no control over that external link, right? So what happens is that as soon as you change the link, so in this case, I think this one was like develop slash contracts slash quick start, people will enter there and it will say like, you know, it's not found. So something that you need to do is to create a redirect. So as you saw, like I click enter and it took me to the right page. So this meant that, you know, after you fix all of the internal links, you need to go and set up renders at the server level. So that's literally you writing down maybe 250 redirects, or like, you know, if you're lucky enough, or if you move everything by blocks, which we did, generally you will say like everything that was inside of develop contracts, now send it to build smart contracts. But then comes the third thing, which is we also have translations. And the system that we use for translations, let me see if I find something that is translated. I think that in, I think Korean, we have all of this. Yeah. So the system that we use for translations is not the smartest system ever, in the sense that if you move the file A and you rename it to B, the system says like, well, I have translations for A, you have a new file B, please translate this new file, which is called B. Even if the content is exactly the same and the only thing you did is rename it, the translation system like gets completely lost. So we have to end up like making some little scripts to say like, okay, every file that we change, let me see how we rename it. Now rename the translations, and now please upload those translations. And then, of course, you have to check that this is correct. You have to go to crowdin. Crowdin is the system that we use for translations, and delete the files that you don't want people to translate anymore, making sure that you move them. So this was on itself, this was already like 2 days of work. And actually, I don't, something else that happens is that after you upload translations, crowdin sometimes doesn't know how to interpret MDX files, so will modify them. So we need to like then upload them, re-download them, see what happened, and then fix any problem and upload it again. So yeah. So sounds like something easy to do. Is really like a pain in the head. So yeah, but anyway, it's almost finished. We have only like a small thing with some translations that we have to check, but for the rest, like everything was migrated, and people should now, like have a more consistent experience. Like everything that is inside, like build, smart contracts, anatomy, now is going to be build, smart contracts, anatomy, basics, environment is going to be anatomy, environment, storage is going to be, etc., right? Like, so it makes more sense. So that was one of the things that we changed. This was mostly like in the past week and a half or something like that. Something else that I wanted to share is that we're still like sort of deciding on this, but most probably and most likely Docs is getting a blog. So the idea of this, and let me see if I have the preview. Did I put the preview there? No. Don't worry, I can find it in 1 second. Add a blog, and here. So something that happens generally with the documentation is that whenever you're writing documentation, right, you're mostly creating like technical documents, and they need to be, like sort of concise and short and like very to the point. Most of the times, like people will say like, I want more code than text, right? But there are some times that you want to explain things, right? Like, or you want to take more time, which sometimes are tutorials and sometimes are not tutorials. Sometimes it's just like you want to explain people why you reorganize the docs and how that was done. And that's for what we want to use this blog. So the whole idea is that whenever we have, like new things, like we're reorganizing and we need people to say like, hey, look, we did this, check, check what is happening, in any case, report it. We can use 2 things. One is like this announcement bar that I'm liking it more and more by the week. And the second one is like, we can have our own blog. And again, like this is not necessarily because for example, like Near has its own blog, right? Like near.org, and that's more for like ecosystem of announcements and I think like major releases and etc. This is more about, like where we are gonna say like why we did this, or there is this new thing, or like things that you could do with that. So it's going to be blog posts, and the idea of having them within docs instead of like, for example, like putting them on near.org is that in this way, like we allow docs to be self-contained, and like we can choose, like someone will navigate and we will say like, hey, by the way, we have now a chain abstraction. Come and see the release, and we can explain something here, and then we can still have like the documentation. And everyone that enters to docs will be able to see this, which we are not sure, like if everyone that enters docs also enters near.org/blog, or if they enter, like the Dev Hub community. But what we know is that the people that enter docs, and therefore they will see this. So yeah. And the whole idea is that we want to make like short blog posts here, like something that takes, like it's just like a little bit, and that's it, nothing too long. So yeah, ideally we will release this tomorrow. because that's something else that we want to start doing. In order to make docs more engaging, we want to start having sort of like a release per week, ideally on Thursdays. Why Thursdays? Why not? It could also be Wednesday. Uh, and the whole idea is that, like in that way, when like the docs feel as alive, and that because actually they are alive. And many times I notice that people don't realize that, for example, like we change all of the landing pages. Like this was a lot of work, but besides being a lot of work, it's super useful, or at least, says me. And I would like to get feedback maybe on that. And I can tweet, but my tweet has so much reach, right? Like, and maybe DevHub can tweet it, but then it has also so much reach. Meanwhile, people is already coming here. So we just tell them like, hey, by the way, look at this new blog post. And did you know that we release all of this new stuff? Amazing. So that's very useful. Time will tell if we were right or not. What else? Yeah, using more and more the announcement bar, really loving it. And if you have a website and you're not using an announcement bar, think about starting doing it. It's very useful. And the last two things that are sort of like important, and then we can talk about like whatever else, is that we implemented some improvements on Hello World example that I have wanted to implement for the longest time. There were some things that were driving me crazy. I'm going to tell you about them now. The first of all is like we have now like a simpler front end. We always had this fight between React and vanilla JS. And now what I did for like the past 3 months, I think, I activated metrics on Create Near App just to see if people, when they were creating a front end, they were creating like a vanilla front end or like a Next JS, so like a React front end, and within React, within Next, if they were using what is called like the pagination app, the page app, or the app root or the page root there. And we did statistics on that, and out of like 300 frontends that were created, 280 were created with like Next and the page router. So we said like, okay, perfect, let's just go with that and change our all of our examples to use that people apparently is choosing over the vanilla version that we have. And something else important is that now, and this is like the step like for the next couple of weeks, is that all of the examples are going to be already released in GitHub, so people can play with them. So if you go to near examples and we go to hello near examples, right? Like we still have to change the README to also reflect it, but now all of them are like, okay, you can literally come and play with it. So you can come and see it's deployed and it works. I can save and then say howdy. This will interact with the smart contract, and it also shows you like about like near components. You can also, well, it didn't read on. Yeah, there. You can also just play with this one, confirm, and now you know like you are seeing how smart contracts and components work, and that's directly like without having to download the repo, do the install, and then and do the yarn dev and start it locally. And something else as important as all of this is that I fixed an issue, or it's not an issue, it's a feature actually of the VM, but I always find it kind of annoying. I don't know if you all knew, but the VM has a system such that, let me show you the code. The VM had a system such that if it detects that, so the VM uses a wallet selector, right? Like the wallet selector is the one that allows you to connect your wallet. If the wallet selector connects to a smart contract that is not SocialDB, so in more technical terms, if it creates a function call key for a smart contract that is not SocialDB, it automatically disconnects you, which I always found it like, why? Because, for example, like in the case of the Hello World, did I close it? Nice here. What used to happen before is that you will log in, and as soon as you click in here and the components are rendered, it will log you out like automatically. So it will automatically do like this. And you are like, but why? And then you will come here and you will log in again, right? Like you will choose your wallet, you will connect. Oh, in this case, it's not connecting. I have to check. Ah, maybe I left it like this. I did not update it. Okay. But if during the connection, here it will say, ah, okay, yeah, here. If it will connect you, if you connect to a contract and you will click connect, before what will happen is that all of this section will pass and you will be disconnected again because of this line of code. So I just added like to make that optional. It's like, and if if your VM is not configured to allow other contracts, then disconnect it. But if it is configured to allow other contracts, then this does not execute and you're not going to be disconnected. And then people can do what I wanted to do, which is like showcase how you can talk with a smart contract and how you can talk with web components. And I know these are a lot of updates, but the last thing is like Garrick is working in migrating the NFT tutorial. So this is a lot of work. It's just like a lot of pages, and I was stuck on like I was not stuck, but we were doing the migration. But as soon as I finish that, I will check the migration of the NFT tutorial, like I will merge it, and then I will most probably you will see me asking around saying like, hey, who feels like testing the NFT tutorial to see if it's still working? We're migrating it to SDK 5.1, right? Like it's the latest one. Yeah. Lots of things. Any questions about any of these? I'm gonna take the silent as a no. So in the next couple of weeks, what will happen is that we will keep migrating all of the examples that we have to have this new front end using Next.js. Well, I mean, we're going to do the deployment of the blog. And after we do that, maybe I will go into finally tackling the problem of having 3 pages for the SDK or 2 pages for the SDK. One which is like this one that explains like how to use the Rust SDK. The other one is this one, right? That explains how to use the JavaScript SDK. And the third one is this one, which explains how to use both the JavaScript and the Rust SDK. So we don't need 3 pages. We just need most probably 1 or 2, but we need to
Guillermo, sorry, I
Yes.
did have a question. I couldn't find the screen. So okay, so or just specify that we have the plan to launch our own blog. So that's something I don't think I don't know if we can somehow sync some. I don't know. Let's discuss if there is some kind of redundancy of what you're doing and what we're doing, trying to see if we can coordinate on that front. We can have that conversation of Shane, of Shane offline, and also we are working in a set of sample codes, right? And some of them are starting to be out. So I think they are some of them qualify as hello world examples, right? So I probably want to know if it makes sense to move those into your own flow, or if it makes sense for us to have a separated flow for a hello world and a quick start kind of codes for chain abstraction, for the SDK or stuff like that. So that's what I wanted to pick your brain. How do you think? I mean, the general question is, it seems that we are doing some things in parallel that might be redundant. It might make sense that we just work together and add some stuff to your things, or in the blog, I don't know, we may be being redundant in some areas. So yeah, what do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, completely. So we can start with the blog. The blog, we're not building absolutely anything because like the technology that we use, like Docusaurus, already has it from scratch. It's just that we never had the time to write blog posts. And as I was saying, like it's not only about like so the reason, for example, for us to not post in, or like, not only post in the dev hub communities or dev hub blog, is that everyone that enters into the docs will see the announcement bar with the new blog or new post that we're doing. So something that, right, like that's not necessarily true for like any other website, in the sense of like, we know that the users of docs are in docs. We don't know if the users of docs are, like in the blog version 2 of near dev hub. Uh, so, we can also post there and say like, hey, like there's a new post about this. Have you seen it? But like, and we also, like, I am gonna assume that, the type of posting that we do is different, but we can post in both places. I think that everything that is anything that is relevant for like documentation, you know, uh, can be posted like not only in our place but also in others.
Yeah,
And
the idea is that we have a number of content, written content about the basic pillars of deference, and documentation is one of them, right? So if there is documentation, either if we just link it from your post or you post in both sites, we should have, if the content is being generated about documentation, I mean, it should be within our area of, on influence or something like that, right? So that's the part I'm trying to figure out what is the best way. But I will definitely ping you again later about how we can, the best way. I don't know. I probably posting in both sites makes sense, or just you publish on your and we link in Tower or something like that.
yeah, and the other thing about like the examples, I think that is best for absolutely everyone. If anything that is like an example lives in the documentation, because think that we have like, I think it's like more than 20,000 or 30,000, like visits per month. Uh, and we have a section on tutorials now on docs, and it would be nice to like see it flourish into like, here you have 5 tutorials on like Hello World, and here you have like uh,
Okay. Yeah, let's find a way, because our idea is to start generating more examples, and I want to focus, because feedback based on workshops and hackathons and stuff, that we don't have like good quick hello words for complex things. We have good hello word for the basics,
yeah, exactly.
but yeah. So I'm trying to. I'm actually finishing 2 or 3 for the more complex stuff. Like I'm trying to get someone for the fast out, the stuff like that. Like it actually works.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
So something important to take into mind is like, uh to not fragment ourselves into, like into like publishing in different places and not having information of one into another. Like when docs and DevRel was all part of like the same thing, right? Like when it was like let's call all of us DevRel, right? Like when we were all under the same umbrella in like, taking all decisions at the same time. Something that we were trying to do is to make docs the place that was helping us to answer questions. The whole idea of docs, and this is still how I like to see it, is that docs is not just like the documentation for the users, but it's also like something that allows us as developer relations to work faster. Actually, one of our OKRs at some point was that more than 80% of the questions in Discord should be answered as a link to docs. Because right, like the whole idea is that like as the community grows and more people is asking, we have less and less time to like go very deep into each person. um, and and I think that if we like we adopt that mindset, in the sense of like when we create tutorials, we put them in docs. When we create like examples, we link them in docs. People will find them, because people literally Google like near documentation.
Yeah.
But and they will Google it more often than like the probability of them finding it in docs is way higher than they finding their way to DevHub and then the examples of DevHub if they're inside of like uh, github.com/org/near/devhub/projects, right? Like that.
Yeah, we were having that conversation yesterday with how we can make it only 2 clicks for the moment they get in to get to the actual sample code, right? That would be ideal. So, but it's tricky.
Yeah,
It's tricky because we have some different fronts, right? It's not like other companies. You just have an API, right? We have the chain abstraction and have the other thing and other thing. So we're trying to figure out what the best way, like a single point of access, and then the branch into three, or just have the three at the first level. So yeah, we're looking into that. So yeah, let's
yeah,
let's
but
to make it
yeah,
work
yeah,
with.
and
Mhm. Go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, that's why I encourage you to like use the docs, because I think that we like many of those things we encounter them at some point. And for example, like the structure that docs has is not out of it is more out of like getting feedback from people than not, because check that people is saying like what we are missing is examples on how doing something complex, which is like the like we get that feedback for a long time. And the important thing is that that means that they're finding the other tutorials, right? Like
Yeah.
uh, so uh, I now the latest the previous reorganization that we did on docs was to divide it. Right, let me share my screen again, uh, and then I can go to docs near.org. Right, like this section of tutorials, and here, as you can see, we have a lot of space to put a lot of things, and we can completely reorganize this. And right now this is popular examples and popular tutorials, but changing this to chain abstraction examples, fast out, or like whatever, putting here change abstraction and fast out, or putting a whole section here, that's literally like a minute of work. It's trivial, because we also organize the docs in such a way that that can happen. uh, and the same way that like we can separate examples and tutorials and put all of the tutorials of NFT in here, and we could have like chain abstraction here, and right, like we could have so that's what I was saying, and people will find this. Like I can assure you that people will find it, because a lot of people like go to docs.near.org. Uh,
Okay.
so yeah,
Okay.
and
I would like to add Joe to that conversation. So let's try to have it also a little off chain, and then
yeah,
try to then later set
completely.
up a call so we can. Yeah, but using the
Uh,
example you have there, our question was, should we have a popular tutorial section, and when you go to that you see chain abstraction, fast out and stuff, or just start from chain abstraction and from the next chapter chain abstraction give examples, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that's the details. Let's try to add Joe to the conversation, because he's actually working on the redesign of the website, and I will make sure we have the conversation, see how we can. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and also something else is that that's also like something that we could even like push further with the blog, because people will enter here and will see we have a new tutorial on using chain abstraction. Do not miss it, right? Or we have a new tutorial of blah blah blah, and we can even brand it like like, they have contributed a new tutorial on something. Right? That's not a problem, right? Like, but the whole idea is that suddenly 30,000 people, or like 30,000 visits will see that. uh, and even if it is like 500 people, I'm sure that the statistics on like docs.near.org are like like this is a lot of people that is gonna see it. And since this is being recorded, this is not just for DevHub, this is also for you. If you have a next tutorial, come and contribute it. We are like, it's open source, just open an issue. I trust you, we're gonna review it. I promise you, we're gonna review it. uh yeah, Ori.
Cool. Yeah, no, this is great. I'm glad we're having conversation and aligning. Yeah, I would love to give a little bit more context about this sort of, rethinking of the Dev Hub landing page, because we've spent quite a bit of time trying to think about like, who are we, what are we doing, right? Like, and we've recently simplified our scope, or refined it, I would say, into like DevHub is responsible for dev tools. It's DevRel, and then like a platform that enables proposals, decision making, funding, etc. And right now when people go on DevHub, like the story is not entirely clear. Like, when should they come to DevHub? When should they go on docs.near.org, etc.? And I think recently we had this realization, like really what we think DevHub is like resources for developers. Like we want to be like the manual for developers when they come to here on how to get started. And there are many types of resources that exist for developers, such as the docs, website, and many more. And like we need to figure out how do we tell that story better? How do we connect? And actually, Vlad, I don't know if you're able to speak, but maybe do you want to share some of the thinking we have for that page and how you see it relating to docs?
Yeah, well, as already just said, the docs is definitely the powerful mechanism to for self-service for developers. But we also see communities and in real life events, hackathons, and all that stuff being announced through DevHub. So we like, and also funding. So we have a bunch of ideas. But actually, I don't want to derail this discussion right now. The goal for us was to also be aligned and pick your brain on what you are thinking in terms of the structure, in order for us to more efficiently lend developers to the resources, maybe not just to the main page, but directly to tutorials or directly to your blog, or maybe also replicate your blog in DevHub as well. So it would be like two mirrors, also cross-linking, so people have higher chances to see the latest stuff. So yeah, that's all. And Josh, I see you also have something to add.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to. I gotta actually another meeting I gotta jump into. But I just wanted to talk about the examples and stuff. Yeah, it's awesome that Joe or I don't know who he said Boris is creating some fast auth examples on how to build it. That's awesome. Yeah, just having one place that we're putting it, and it'd be nice if we just like maybe collectively agree that near examples is the place that we are going to put those examples and then host them, so that way they're easy to discover for developers. We spent there was so many examples in there. It was like, I don't know how many. There was like 200 or something. I'll share a spreadsheet that I had, but we did spend some time before my team spun down and kind of handed things over, consolidating things and just making sure that what was there was at least relevant, and if it wasn't, it was archived or at least clearly marked like this is not kept up to date. So yeah, let me share that spreadsheet with you. But yeah, if you guys are creating any kind of tutorials or guides, I would say let's create it, or make sure that there's a fork of it, or at least we're maintaining it in the one near examples organization, and then linking that with docs, so that way people are finding it in docs. That's all. Just want to make sure that we have a single place to have these, because I know like proximity is also helping, and I know Matt has got an example, but it's on his personal GitHub account, and I would like to kind of have the things that everyone's creating. It's just hard to point everyone to personal repositories and personal accounts, rather than just having one place where everyone can go. Just trying to consolidate. I know we're all about decentralization, but sometimes centralization can be okay. So that's it.
Yeah,
Yes, I also brought the mint-based templates. Did you see?
Yeah, Mint-based did a bunch too. Yeah, exactly.
But now Sergio, which is one of the contributors of the fellowship, and we are already like every week we talk, but then they have a lot of work right now in Mintbase, and we're also like swamped with a couple of things. But there is a plan to migrate some of those templates into like like upgrade them to official templates, because many of them are very useful. And for example, like if we have to have an example of how to have an NFT marketplace, I will trust Mintbase to contribute to that. And what Josh was saying was also very relevant, in the sense that Proximity, for example, now is making a lot of work into chain abstraction. And while some of the repos are not like in near examples, they have contributed a lot, and I have spoken with them a lot while we were creating the things. For example, Matt. Or multi-chain example was helped a lot by Proximity. If anyone from Proximity ever sees this, like, thank you so much for the help. In the same way that Proximity is, like through opening issues, helping with other repositories. I think they created your app. They were finding some issues, and that's something that like if at some point we manage to do, right, like if we have like docs as the gold standard and we all contribute to it, it's actually going to be super, it's going to be better for all of us. So yeah. Anything else that we want to discuss? We still have like 40 minutes, I think. Yeah.
You also wanted to mention like next week's, and we interrupted you.
No, I think that I was almost done, because like in the next few weeks is going to be about finishing migrating the NFT tutorial, finishing migrating the fungible token tutorial, finishing migrating all of the front ends. So that was Matthias and Garik. Sergio is checking to revive Token Farm. Do you all know Token Farm? Is this place to? Yes.
I mean, we did we fixed it. I added the so they can pick a different wallet, because the code that is there, it only points to near wallet, but I don't know where to make a PR for that, because they all seem to be. Yeah, so I don't know if we can. I don't know who Sergio just said he was working on that.
Yeah, Sergio was going to take a look into that.
Okay.
So
Probably
either
we can talk about it. I mean, probably he can use the code I did. We wanted to do it because we were launching some, meme coins, so we were using it, but we were running local, and we made the fixes. And I added the wallet picker, because by default we switch it to my near wallet, but so yeah. So if he's interested in use my code, I don't know. I wasn't planning to work more on that. I was working while the hackers were doing the hackathon in Seoul. So I'm happy to share the code or whatever if he wants.
Yeah, perfect. So this is another example of like it. Like our whole idea was to just update the code in near examples, because the token farm is actually a near example, and then go and ask Eugene if he will kindly give us the token.farm URL just to update or to tell Eugene, hey, here's the code updated for your example. Can you just update the website, please?
Yeah, I wanted to go that, but no, ABB didn't want to go. Says he didn't want to waste time on that, and then I forgot about it. But
no worries.
Yeah.
But this is where like we can have this like hive mentality or hive work, where like if you had, for example, updated the near examples, most probably I will have gone and ping Eugene and say like, hey Eugene, this is updated now, just update the website. So this is a very good example of like, let's try, like whatever we do, we put it in near examples, and then like worst case scenario, we end up with too many examples. I don't think anyone is going to complain from having too many. They generally complain from.
I pick you later, so just explain me how to create a PR, for example, or something like that. I mean,
yeah,
the best way. Okay.
Perfect. We can also coordinate on that. And the other thing is that the SDKs. I want to consolidate the SDKs in just one place. Ideally, I don't know if it is possible. I have to check it, but ideally, people will enter and say like how to create a smart contract, and then we will explain it, and they choose like JavaScript or Rust. And then the page changes and shows them like, like, okay, you want to create it using JavaScript, this is the code. You want to create them using Rust, this is the code. And all of the pages are the same. And then what changes is the code, and some explanations, of course, will change. But I will expect not too many of them to change. And that will be the next like 2-3 weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Crossing fingers. Yeah. Sasha.
Yeah, any chance, guys, we get a link or two after all to Learning Club?
Sorry?
Any chance we get some links?
I
think it's been a while already, right? Yeah, hate to notify, bring back to the table.
I know. I promise you that I have it in my mind, because you asked for this last week, but we literally like on migrating the things. So for example, like Korea translated 80% of the documentation, and after we made the change, they only had 20% or like 10% of the documentation migrated. So therefore, like the past 3 days since Monday has been like literally trying to fix translations, so a whole country, at least like people that speak a language does not end up without. Also, like I think it's like USA, and then the second country that most visits our documentation is Korea. But next week we should be more calm, and then I can actually do that. So just to let you know what I'm planning to do is
It's okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I got it. I just this is was just a friendly reminder.
yeah.
And this is not crucial. You survive regardless, right? The
Uh,
this is like an idea that I would like to share with you guys. Like I'm not sure if it's worth to consider. Like, is there any analytics that can be shared publicly, like to people like to who comes to dogs to near dogs about what is popular now, like what is like trending hot and stuff like that, like the most useful and the most readable articles.
Yeah, I can ask
What do
around,
you
but I
think? Yeah.
suppose I suppose that it's possible, and I can already tell you that we see it like consistently that most of the people. Actually, let me share my screen. Most of the people actually comes to this part of the documentation. No, so near the door. Most of the people will come here to concepts and see what is near. Like this is the most visited page in our documentation, and then the second one is transactions. Apparently people want to see about like what are transactions and etc. And then another one of the most visited is like what is a smart contract and the quick start of the smart contract. uh, but I can compile because this I have like numbers going around in some page. I can try to compile like a nice graph and share it like let me write it down as a to do.
Yeah, I think this is a good insight, about what is happening, right? And this
Yeah,
like the ones that you shared, they're more like normal people related, right? But like, and there could be another one, the like what sparks the most interest among developers. Like, is it
yeah.
chain abstraction or whatever? Like anything, just like this is how the uh, pub content publishing system works, right? They have to recommend people to go further.
Yeah, and actually,
Mm.
you know what? This will make a very good blog post. So we can actually just make a blog post about and we could even like do also statistics from DevHub and see like we see from documentation that people is talking about this, and we see that from hackathons maybe this information is coming.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
yeah, this could be a good this is the perfect example of like a blog post and a collaborative blog post. Yeah, I wrote it down already in my notes, so I will take that into next week. And I was gonna tell you that with respect to the link, what I want to do is to add also a section of external learning resources, such as a near Learn Club and what's the other one, Vlad, that they're doing the tests, that they're doing this interactive learning of smart contracts in
Agrap?
JavaScript. Yeah,
Agrap.
Agrap. Thank you. Yeah. And actually, most probably, I want to put that. Uh, we have a section of external links, and right now it's like running a node near indexers. So like I think that more important will be like other like learning websites, and we can put them there. And then I also want to add a section in resources, and I have to see if they finish because they were doing some statistics on this, and I didn't want to skew them, but most probably we can add them here in the resources also. So yeah, that's possible. I did not forget it. Give me next week, and I promise you that next week there will be a PR of this.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much.
Any other topics for the day that we would like to discuss as a group? If not, if anyone is seeing this and you have tutorials and examples that you want to that you will want to put, please just make a PR. And yeah, then that will be it. We can also end it 10 minutes short.
Thank you.
Awesome. Gracias, Guillermo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Joe.
And
Bye.
I'll see you soon.